So thank you for your time today, Mike. Obviously, the purpose of this call today is to kind of get more of an insight into the Hospitality Taskforce and to find out a little bit more about you. So obviously, we've set up the Hospitality Taskforce with a number of others, particularly to support the hospitality sector. But I thought it would be better to come from you, given your background in hospitality. So maybe you start off with introducing yourself and tell us about you and tell us about your journey so far.
Sure, thanks, Roy. Why not? And why not? Yeah. So Mike Hoff, been working in the Middle East now for nearly, gosh, it's going on for 20 years. Can you believe that? 20 years. But prior to that, I was in the UK. Spent about just short of 30 years in various hospitality businesses and retail, actually, supermarket, general retail, but more hospitality, food and beverage. Came out to the Middle East in 2004 and joined Al Shaya here to run Starbucks coffee for the Middle East, which was fun for a few years, and then moved down here to the UAE, lived in Dubai for a while, and ran an F&B division there also for one of the big retailers here, Altair. And then 11 years ago, decided it's time that I started to take all that experience and do something with it, because I had great fun, but I really wanted to do something with it. So I set up our consulting business that primarily aims at sorting out problems with companies and how to grow them and make them profitable. So yeah, kind of.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So you're leaving the hospitality world and going into consultancy, shall we say. Do you think that came out as a result of what you experienced as a F&B operator, or was it something else that caused this desire to go?
Well, that's interesting, because freedom probably was the main thing that drove me, because I'd seen a lot of other people that were having quite a nice lifestyle, but more importantly, it was like, well, it's good doing it for one company, i.e. improving things and driving profitability, etc., and building teams. But wouldn't it be great if I could do it for multiple companies? So that was the real driver, to impact more people and leverage my time better. So that was the main driver. Yeah.
Okay. So interesting. So now tell me a little bit then about when you were in the F&B space. And obviously you've worked with you and I have spoken this a number of times, but the types of organizations and entities that you've worked with have varied considerably. There are some huge names in there that people would recognize, and there are some probably not so huge names as well within there. But what did you learn from all of those kind of experiences? What are kind of some of the things that you could talk about?
There's kind of two phases. There's two phases really. There's the pre-Middle East experience and the post-Middle East experience. And the pre-Middle East experience was, I worked for some big names, and Grand Metropolitan, Superdrug, Summerfield, little supermarkets. So some big names in there, some small ones like Benji's that not many people who didn't work in London would recognize. I know you do.
Yes,
you're a customer.
Absolutely.
But it was a struggle, and they were all multi-site roles. Eventually, I might have started single site, then went multi-site, and the jump from single to multi was huge. And I really struggled with consistency across the states, consistency of getting the same results in each of the outlets, restaurants, pubs, whatever it might be. And it usually was around three things. It was, why can't I get the same standards across, even outlets in the same town? Why can't I get the same standards out of my outlets? Why can't I get the same kind of standard of people delivery? And why are some outlets making more profit than others? And it really, I really struggled with those things. And that was the toughest piece. It got easier in the Middle East, and perhaps I'll talk about that in a second. But those are the key challenges that I face, definitely.
Okay. So talk to me more about those. How did you navigate through that? What was the impact on you as a result of those kind of challenges? Because at the end of the day, we, as business owners, we are all faced with a number of different challenges on a daily basis. It's part of what being a business owner or a business operator is all about. But how in particular did those kind of inconsistencies, as you call them, impact what your role was within the entities?
An amazing amount of stress.
Okay.
Amazing amount of stress, and stress affects people in different ways. But I felt overwhelmed and uncomfortable and unhappy. It really led to some more personal things that happened in my life in terms of stress and relationships and poor judgment as well, because everything was cloudy. I I was not a headless chicken, but felt very uncontrolled in
Right.
that environment. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think we know that under pressure, we don't make good decisions because we don't have the clarity and we don't have the thought and we can't. And ultimately, in most places, you don't have the time or the luxury of time to kind of ponder and come up with the ideal solution, correct?
Yeah, and one of the things that happened to me, and quite, there's no one to blame but myself, is there really? And it's kind of at appraisal times or something, it'd be, oh, you need to do a time management course, a leadership course, a management course, or whatever it might be, and that just confused me even more. It's like, well, I've got to learn something else now, and actually my results didn't get better, and in some cases they actually got worse. So I was poking at the wrong solution, Rohit, when I think, God, nothing's working right now.
Okay. So that's the UK experience. Tell us about the Middle Eastern experience and how things changed or didn't change.
Well, interestingly, when I came to the Middle East, things were a lot more structured. I was working in a very structured franchise environment, such as, well, the first business was Starbucks, and of course, very organized, very structured in the way that they aligned their teams, their standards, and their processes, and aligning around kind of a central plan for the year. Now, this sounds obvious. And my experience previous to that, and it's nothing to do with the UK and the Middle East, but my previous experience was we were really good at managing the numbers and looking at the P&L every month, but strategically looking at the priorities for the year and beyond wasn't something we really do. It was all about getting the numbers in by Christmas kind of thing. So the big difference over here was it's more structured. And then when I moved down to the UAE, it got even better because I was then assigned a coach, which was great. And he introduced me to a planning system that really helped align businesses. So that really helped me a lot. Okay,
perfect. So obviously now you are running your own consultancy as well, and obviously we've touched on the Hospitality Taskforce. So what are you trying to achieve with this? Why do this? You've been running consultancy for 10 years now. Why now? Why hospitality? What's this whole thing all about?
It's funny, Rohit's asked a question he knows the answer to, because he's been talking to me about niching for I don't know, more than a year. We've known each other for about 3 years now. And niching down was like, look, why aren't you using that expertise, and why can't we bring people together like Rohit and the other team members to really drive it? So that's kind of driven me to say, look, we've got things that we can add value to and avoid people making the same mistakes that I and others have made in the past. So and the task force is designed as, I don't know, like a think tank, would you say, Rohit? I don't know, bringing like-minded people together, and also putting some process and solutions in for them. So yeah.
And I think that's how I view it. I mean, the idea is to bring people together to, because I think the thing is, business owners typically believe that they are unique and that their challenges are unique to them. And whilst the challenges may be unique to their organization, they're not unique across the sector. And so obviously there are things that you can learn from each other, but it's kind of how you go away and implement that. And for me, part of the reason for doing this task force is to start to address those kind of commonalities, shall we say, and allow people to have an open conversation about it, because it's lonely running a business. It's lonely trying to lead, and often the buck stops with you. And so if you don't have someone to, you had a coach, as you mentioned, right? So, some people have coaches, that's great. But if you don't have a coach, what do you turn to? Who do you talk to?
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because I had some really good mentors as my growing up in Grand Metropolitan, particularly in the UK. I had some really good mentors that taught me the ropes of. I remember going to apply for my first license, if you like, for the alcohol license and stuff, and I was taught the script. And I had some great mentors. My experience over recent years has been those mentors are either doing what we're doing and have exited, so they're not within the organizations anymore, and we're relying on education institutions to teach the ins and outs of how to run a hospitality business. And I think we've gone from more front of house approach to a more administration approach. That's been my experience, and we're not really thinking like operators anymore. That might sound a bit old school, but then again, I'm 60, I'm allowed to say that.
Well, and look, there's nothing wrong with bringing some of that stuff right to the fore, making people refocus on it, because if it worked then, it works now. And actually, one of the things that we talk about are things that are going on today, right?
you're right. And people say, well, you know, life's changed now, and then COVID thrown in your face, of course,
Yes.
and things have changed now, Mike. You don't really understand. It's like, no, the fundamentals of a customer going into an outlet, a restaurant, a pub, anywhere, a coffee shop, to get an experience that they deserve has not changed since Adam was a lad. So,
Exactly.
you know, that has not fundamentally changed. The expectations might have improved and increased. Okay, but the fundamentals are still there. You know,
And that's no bad thing, right? We know that some entities do it particularly well. The
Yep.
quality of service, the consistency of service is obvious.
Yep.
And then you find others that are not so. And so therefore you've almost got that, you know, we look at things from outside going, well, they've got it all figured out, when in fact they often don't, right? They're running between their own units, their own sites, trying to make sure that it is becoming more consistent. But in your mind, you know, of all the entities you've worked with, which one was particularly well run compared to, you know, and obviously it's over time. So, you know, it may not be fair to necessarily call them out, the older ones, but what would you say, you know, from all of those different businesses, who do you think has got it, who had it nailed when you were there?
I think that, without naming names, I know it's kind of, it was the company that took my desktop computer away,
Right.
and made me spend time in the stores. And one of the things that frustrates me, and one of the things that really frustrates me, and those who know me, particularly from my time over here, I hate it when I walk in and find an area manager of my business sitting at a table that costs money with their laptop open, and there's a queue of 10 people at the bar. It just really annoys me.
But you see it everywhere, right? You see it here in the UK, and you see it in the Middle East, you see it everywhere. So
the company that was the best was the most streamlined company, because of their simplicity, because what we're trying to do is make the customer experience a wow experience. They just need to go out and go, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That
So
was
not
awesome.
paying lip service to it, which I think a lot of entities,
and getting involved. And I'm just going to go off piece here, and you know, I don't mind if you cut this out, but on Saturday evening, Claire and I, we went to see Seal in concert down in Sharjah, which is an emirate just south of us in the UAE. And he got involved in the audience for 90 minutes, which felt like we got the whole world. 90 minutes, he was in the audience. He was involved in them. He was making sure we had a great experience. And we left buzzing. Sharjah doesn't come down. There's no alcohol in Sharjah, so it's a dry event. You think, oh, it was fantastic because the guy got involved. And that's a big thing about, I see that lacking in many hospitality businesses, because we're driving them on the wrong KPIs. We're driving them on the sales. And I heard it recently, you've just got to go out and sell. I had a waiter tell me the other day, I've just been told I've got to go out and sell. So do you want another round, and do you want some more food? It's like, no, I don't. And when I do, I'll ask for it, or do it in a different way, you know? So yeah, get involved.
Okay, so thank you for that. So tell me, obviously, Hospitality Taskforce, I know little bits about it, but what should people be looking out for? What's the ultimate goal here? What are we trying to do?
Yeah, value's got to be our number one. Everything we do has got to add value to someone. There's no point turning up. You know, we're going to have fortnightly meetups, which I think is a brilliant idea. That was Rohit's brilliant idea. We're having the first one on the 22nd, so that's going to be awesome. But it's about bringing people together and say, you're not on your own. You're not isolated. Like you said earlier, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely running your own business, especially if it's multi-site. So bringing like-minded people together to create a force for good, I suppose, is the way that I'd like to see it. And to bring some best practice to the industry that I think is lacking in places.
Okay, perfect. And obviously we mentioned the meetup. So, you know, part of that is about bringing people together, conversing around a particular topic, and then allowing people to bring other topics for future events, which will make it more interesting.
And I think one of the other things, sorry, go.
Go.
Sorry,
go.
I was going to say, one of the things that we do with this co-creation and meetups is we will create programs that we can all get involved in that will help other people who aren't fortunate enough to come along to these meetups. So we can all get involved in that. So yeah, that's what I don't say. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's good. And so obviously we're going to record them so we can watch them later, potentially, for people who couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Is it only, though, for multi-site operators, do you think, or could anyone who's in the whole hospitality space benefit? That's my
anyone. If you run a coffee shop on the pier down here where I live, then fantastic, come along, because there'll be things there that you'll be able to add the group, and also you'll be able to take away, and that's really, really important. And particularly if you're looking to go multi-site, if you're looking to expand, what a great place to go and spend time with people who've done it before. We don't have all the answers, but the room will have. So that will be a very powerful piece. You know, if you're a coach and consultant in that space as well, why not come along? There could be some things that we could all learn from you.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, we will be doing more of these, I'm sure. So, but thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you.